Good morning, dear friends. It is wonderful. It is very good that you are here this morning. I am the Reverend Brett Johnson. I am the rector at Emmanuel Episcopal Church. And no, we are not. This is not Emmanuel Episcopal Church. This incredibly beautiful sanctuary, we are grateful to First Parish for allowing them to bring you here, for all of us to gather to celebrate Mike. This is a beautiful space, isn't it? It is made all the more sacred by your presence, each one of you. Welcome. And welcome to you that are joining us online. We are grateful you are with us as well. We hope that you will cry and laugh alongside us this entire service. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. So, a celebration. When I first met Michael, before my interview with the church's search committee, he whisked me away to give me a tour of the church. Well, for about 20 minutes or so, of course we were late, for 20 minutes or so, we laughed about the quirks of old buildings, the unique idiosyncrasies of church politics, our shared loathing for certain music, and our certain delight for other music. Little would I know that he would quickly become connected to me and bonded as a brother in just a few months. He was one of the reasons that the Spirit told me to say yes to Emmanuel. Mike was gleeful, impish. In my many years as a church musician, over 30 years as a church musician, I had never known someone with so much unabandoned joy at the keyboard. Who yells, "That was fun, let's sing that again," from the organ during a service? He was consistently generous. Even as his body failed him, we spent so many hours comparing medications and talking about not so pleasant side effects. And we were always laughing, if not at least smirking. Today is about celebrating in a style that leans into joy and laughter right alongside plenty of tears and boatloads. Helen's beautiful picture on the bulletin, boatloads of sorrow, all of it. I was profoundly privileged to companion Mike in the last months. So many of you know him so much better than I ever could, with years and years and years of stories, and I envy you and I rejoice that you are here. So right now, join me in taking a deep breath. You too. Bring your full selves to this moment. Cry, gasp, wail, laugh, lament, sing, because it's not just Mike and Amy and Helen and those closest to him that they want you to feel all of those things. I believe it's what the divine longs for. The divine laments and laughs and grieves right alongside us. So what does your soul require of this service so beautifully crafted this morning? You see, we at Emmanuel, with Mike's help, have been living into our name. The name Emmanuel means God is with us, all of us. And certainly, Emmanuel, God is here. So we're going to do something a little unorthodox. Take a moment. Take a deep breath. Now look around you and stand up if you need to. You can do this. You are the shimmering love of the beloved today. You are. Michael changed our lives. And look around at the proof of his light. You God is with us in you and your love for Mike. Today's celebration is for all of us who Mike loved and who love and know Mike. Yes, I say know, present tense, not new. In my faith tradition, we strongly believe that even at death, life is not ended, is changed. We believe in something called the communion of saints. These are those who no longer are with us in physical form, but we believe are very present to us in other ways. Sure, we miss loving on them by touching and hugging and generally being with them physically, but I really believe that Mike has joined my closest guides for laughter, for advice, companionship. WWMD, what would Mike do? Exactly. Right at this moment, Mike is probably chuckling inside the heart of a chuckling God. No doubt a little smirking and eye rolling that I'm even here, that they're here, and that you're here. And rituals like this are a way that we remember the justice of the future. It's painful, it's unfair that Mike's not here playing and singing with us and for us. He and I spoke often about this. He was on a long ramp with his cancer. Yet even so, in the end, it felt awfully unjust. And Mike was so often about the hope of the future, about Amy and Helen, about countless numbers of you who he talked about and texted at 3 a.m. You are that hope, carrying him and his light, joy, talent, and snark for years to come. Throughout this morning, we will hear speakers and great music, so open your hearts. Allow Mike and capital L love to flood in, to flood through you. May it be so. Helen.
When I began writing my college essay, my dad told me he had the perfect opening sentence for me. He told me to begin with, "My father is a brilliant man." There have been few people I've met in my life that love talking about themselves more than my dad. When he and my granddad would get into discussions about their love for John Denver or the history of the Adirondack State Park, often over a few glasses of wine, their conversations truly would never end. My dad loved a story and loved to talk to anyone who would listen. When we would go on vacation, you could almost always spot him with a gin and tonic in his hand, talking to his new best friend, some complete stranger that he felt compelled to talk to. My dad also loved an adventure more than anyone. On weekends, it would be going up to the North Shore for fish chowder and fried clams and a walk on the beach. In the summer, hiking mountains and going on our annual father-daughter fishing trip in the Adirondacks. Though Dad typically only ended up catching himself rather than any fish, he always had a blast. One time when I was in high school and there was a big snowstorm predicted, my dad picked me up from school with all of my ski gear to take a family trip to the Mount Washington in New Hampshire before the snow hit. My dad was not the greatest skier, but he never cared what others thought and just did it for his own enjoyment. always taking up the rear of the group with a smile and the occasional topple into the snow. However, for my dad, the highlight of any ski trip would always be the hot tub. As an only child, I never felt the need for siblings because my parents were always my playmates. We would build fairy houses in Maine, swim at Cranes Beach in Ipswich while my dad chased me with seaweed, sled at the local golf course in winter, and have couch parties at home watching the Lawrence Welk Show, complete with TV dinners. Even when I went to college, my parents and I never lost our closeness. My freshman year, when I was having trouble with friends, my dad drove all the way to Vermont for a day trip to take me out and spend the day with me. My junior year, when I lived in my first apartment, my dad FaceTimed me to cook pasta fazool and eat together virtually. During the pandemic, we decided to have themed parties on different nights for the three of us to keep it exciting. We had an Irish versus Italian mob night, outer space themed night, and a Great Gatsby night, complete with costumes and cocktail hour in Dad's 1938 wooden boat, Old Sport, in the driveway. After I graduated college, I did a big trip around Europe and the UK, ending in Ireland where my parents met me. We saw so many beautiful places and ate lots of fish and chips, but the highlight of the trip was when we went on a tour of Belfast with former political prisoners. It rained the entire time of the 3-hour tour, and somehow my dad neglected to bring a rain jacket to Ireland. We had just bought a bunch of souvenirs held in a paper bag that began to quickly disintegrate once drenched. The only place we could fit the tea towels and snow globes and knickknacks was in my dad's coat pockets. He had to walk around Belfast for 3 hours, listening to stories of people getting blown up during the Troubles, while soaked head to toe and weighed down with a dozen trinkets. This was definitely a time when my dad used his famous coping mechanism of profanity therapy. He would use this often while hiking, when the fun of the trip was fading and every body part was hurting. Any undesirable situation feels much better when you let out a few F-bombs. I told my mom when my dad was passing that I felt scared because a family of two doesn't feel like a family. Although the transition from 3 to 2 has been an unimaginable change, it will never really just be my mom and me. My parents chose an elaborate network of family for me, compiled of friends from around the country, blood-related and not. Friends and neighbors who stepped in to help keep us going this winter and always. Friends who helped with hanging storm windows, putting away furniture for winter, making many delicious soups and cookies. Friends who offered their innate compassion, wisdom, prayers, food, rides, and assistance whenever needed. A chosen family of people who have been amazing, offering their talents as bakers, carpenters, landscapers, pet sitters, lumberjacks, housekeepers, launderers, and much more. Although my dad is not with me physically, he set me up to feel his love through all the people he shared his love with. After he graduated from Hamilton College, my dad sent a document to his closest friends called Stories I Love to Tell. In it, he says, "Now these stories may be heard whether I'm around to tell them or not." How happy my dad would be to see everyone he loved together to share his stories. In our New Year's letter to our friends this year, my dad wrote, "We have a framed magazine advertisement for the old movie, It's a Wonderful Life. The film tells the story of small-town hero George Bailey, in his Redemption from Darkness to Light. The film emphasizes, among other things, the value of family, home, hearth, and community. I have, for the last several months, felt like I am starring in that old black and white movie. Amy, Helen, and I have been beaten and battered this year, but the adversity has also given us the opportunity to look for light shining in the darkness. Even in my dad's final days, he was always able to see the joy and beauty in life. To him, every day was a gift, and he took full advantage of that. My father's love of life was unmatched, because it's true. It is a wonderful life. Thank you.
I remember the day I met Mike, just as he was starting at Fenn. Even though I was 20 years, almost to the day, Mike's senior, he was my boss. At first, I wasn't happy about the arrival of this newly minted music teacher. His predecessor was my friend, and I was sorry that she was leaving. I was lacking a positive attitude about working with this young kid. That quickly changed, however, when I saw that he was an inspired and gifted musician. He wasn't your boilerplate music teacher. He took the teaching of music to a whole new level. Every concert had a theme that focused deep into the history and culture of the period of music that was to be performed. He cared deeply about giving the boys the opportunity to sing in public. After the COVID restrictions were lifted, he was disappointed that there was a whole new generation of kids who had never learned to stand on a stage and be heard. Our Fenn trips to England were epic. Imagine being able to sit in on a rehearsal of the King's Chapel Choir eat supper with them, and then play English football with these incredible choristers. I know there's not a Fen boy who will forget that. What this kind of teaching did was give the boys a sense of pride for the great music they were singing. Our professional partnership quickly turned into a profound friendship, which I will forever cherish. He had an enormous heart and beautiful sense of humor. He was one of the kindest people I have ever known. After Mike's cancer diagnosis, I feel that we were all living under a cloud of uncertainty. But he didn't want the talk to be about cancer. He wanted to leave that subject in the rearview mirror. He didn't want to be defined by his disease. Even when his days were dark, he would ask if he could drop off soup. Sometimes he would pop over for a quick visit between classes. He cared deeply about his friends. He would ask how my husband was doing, and we loved sharing off-color jokes. When he was on leave, the internet was a source of great levity for him. To give you some headlines that came across my bow, blocked toilets close Eton boarding school for Britain's elite sons. Mosquito swarm takes over plane, forcing cabin crew to cloud jet with spray. Baby born with 15 fingers and 16 toes undergoes surgery to remove extra digits. The Royals were in Somerville. People were worried about what that meant for trips to Market Basket. The list goes on. Lawrence Welk, one of Mike's favorite entertainers, always said at the end of his shows, "Keep a song in your heart." Mike loved to laugh and sing. He had a passion for life and tried to capture every bit that he could. Everyone was welcome into Mike, Amy, and Helen's warm home. The door was always open. Food and laughter were bountiful. Sitting around their hearth was the essence of friendship. Fortunately, I'm an electronic hoarder and have years of emails and texts between us. As I read them, I searched for a seed of wisdom. What I realized, though, is that long friendships are built on the mundane, the daily interchanges between two people which document their families' comings and goings. What was cooking on the stove, books and music, what kind of scallop deals were to be had at Market Basket. Life's great events, whether joyful or earth-shattering, happen between those daily activities. So I'll end by reciting 2 verses from Leonard Bernstein's Some Other Time. Where has all the time gone to? Haven't done half the things we want to. Oh well, we'll catch up some other time. This day was just a token. Too many words are still unspoken. Oh well, we'll catch up some other time. And now I'd like to read Amy's beautiful poem, What Remains. What remains of the rose whose redolence fades, leaving behind stalk and thorn when summer ends, and false strength shrouds buds, once bursting of spring with the dryness of old leaves. The skeletal piercing stems lay beneath snow piled high beside the door. Blackened branches implore the waning sunlight and wait. Yet what remains of the rose, that essence of a smell so sweet, the breath of summer's life? It is the residue of memory. What remains is not the visible, that brittle armature of husk dormant in the cold. No, it is that insubstantial thing, the reminiscence of a fragrance I suck up with an insect delight, drunken with the promise of reddened petal splendor that lives on in my mind. It is the phantom, more real than flesh, I knew before winter claimed its price.
That was gorgeous. Mike would be so happy right now.
Mike is.
That's right. Mike is so happy. Thank you for the correction. In our celebration today, we do have a few moments that acknowledge Mike's faith life that drew so many of us closer to the divine. Now is one of those moments. As you are comfortable, I invite you to stand as we say together, pray together, internally sing together the iconic and inspiring Psalm 23. Together, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me through the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Be seated. Thank you.
Ugh. Hello, everyone. It's really, really great to see so many people. I know Mike probably expected it, but it's tremendous. He's just a great friend to all of us. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm George Haldeman. Mike and I were, I think, really good friends for about 15 years. We met through Emmanuel in the choir. Not standing, but sitting next to me is my emotional support wife, Siobhan. She's truly wonderful, and I can even take her with me on an airplane. But actually, all kidding aside, she's been a great blessing to get through this, and she's basically going to stand by if I lose it, which is very likely. It's really a tremendous honor to be asked to share some remembrances of this service. A service for such a wonderful guy, and for a man blessed with so many who love him. I'm going to do the best I can to do this the way Mike would want, but I'm sure I will deviate in at least one place. Sorry, Mike, you don't and never did get to control everything. Mike, as most of you know, I'm sure, loved life and laughing, joking and joy, the wonders of the world, and the simple pleasures of friends and family. He was not driven by ambition, but he was nevertheless a great success. Mike received many accolades over the course of his life and does not, I'm sure, mind receiving a few more now at this service. So I want to remember him first as a great friend, a generous and giving person, and a wonderful husband and father. He was a true example to me of the kind of person we should all try to be. Just one of him filled so many of us with God's joy and love. And if we can take that love and pay it forward from him and God, just like my friend did when he was with us, I know we can make this world a much better place. We should also remember Mike as a gifted musician and teacher, and it's really through music that he poured so much joy into the world. It was his passion and his profession, and for me, it was the door to his friendship. I really came to know him best and myself better after he asked me to join the choir at Emmanuel. I hadn't done anything musical since quitting the violin in the 5th grade. But he asked me to sing anyway. I thought he was desperate for bodies and I would just be helping him out for a while. It turned out, of course, that he was helping me out, bringing me into a world of new beauty. I think I have to hand it off.
Bringing me into a new world of beauty I would never have appreciated or thought I could take part in without my wonderful friend. With this music in my heart, Mike will never leave me, and I certainly hope and expect it to last at least until I can see and speak with him again. As much as Mike loved laughing and good cheer, he was not a big believer in melancholy or sharing of sadness. In my earliest acquaintance with him, he was known to respond somewhat dismissively to any sad tidings with, "That's too bad," or, "Huh," followed very quickly by, "I feel great." Even though his sympathy grew tremendously as he fought his illness, he still never wanted to be the one generating any sad news. So I'm going to deviate a little bit from his desires when I just tell you how much his passing is hurting me. I'm sure most of you feel the same way. It is tremendously hard loss for us and for the world. It came so very quickly, and we all felt and feel so powerless to do anything. While he was somewhat indifferent to sadness before his illness, the last several years he did make him much more sensitive. Despite his tremendous personal battle, he kept reaching out to so many, continuing to make them smile, but also to listen and empathize with them. For me, he was an advisor and a confidant, and I found peace talking with him or sitting with him. Even at the very end, "I'm sorry, Mike, but I have to tell everyone, I will miss those talks and your company so much." Despite this immediate disapproval of sadness, in my heart, I know he will always be with me and with us. In my faith, I believe that we will truly be united with him and see him again. Of course, while that seems far off and remote, Mike's memories and the stories he left behind are so vivid and wonderful and silly that they will never leave us. Here I think my remembrances are moving back to an area which Mike will approve, because he loved a good, funny story and is, I'm sure, very happy to be the source of so many. One thing Mike always liked was a really good party. The sillier, the better. The annual Christmas Eve party, complete with Yankee-swapped coconut bras, Christmas carols, the flaming figgy pudding, was a Mikey legend. His 40th hula dancing party in the church hall was also a classic, and he planned many more.
Keep going.
You can.
Keep going. Keep going.
This is the easier part. And he planned many more, including a nice quiet getaway for Amy on her 50th birthday.
You want me to take it over?
Yeah.
I'll try.
I think it was at that
I think it was at that party that I made a limerick toast in Amy's honor, of course, for the first time in front of Mike. I'm glad Mike enjoyed it, but it ended up making a lot of work for me in the future. After that, he started treating me like his court jester, planning his parties and then adding, "George will do a toast." With all that, I never had the chance to do one for Mike. I was actually thinking of doing one for his 55th birthday, which was this month. While he didn't quite make it to the day, many of you know that Mike treated the whole month as a festival in his honor. One never-ending birthday bash we had come to call Mikey-tide. So I think we can get it to him, we can give it to him, and I can close with a toast for Mike as part of this last Mikey-tide celebration. And of course, this toast is upside down. All right, looks like I got it all. So, here's a toast now to Mikey, my friend. Smile along as your ears you will lend. He was always a sport to his friends at his court, as his antics sent all round the bend. Maybe once you rode with Mike on a drive if like me, you probably didn't thrive. On his pedal, then brake, the car would rattle and shake, and you were lucky to get out alive. Mike liked an odd mix of music, I felt. Yacht rock, Bach, and old Lawrence Welk. He had quite an ear, and if you filled him with cheer, he'd funk out and wave pink umbrellas. One thing enough of Mike could never get, shopping trips to his infamous basket. He just loved the old crones who would wander like drones, keeping him from his paper for toilet. He loved all things right out to the edges, had great summer fun at the hedges, just like his pal Mr. Hobbs, or on his boat like in Jaws, while at Christmas he was pulled on his sledges. He wasn't a great one for sin, but in summer loved bottles of gin. He'd buy me one as a gift, but then couldn't resist, and I'd get it with nothing left in. Always acquiring some new shiny toy, like two old wooden boats bought with joy. The ancestors were there, quite a grumpy old pair, in his true treasure room unalloyed. One time Mikey just went for a drive, returning home with a feathery prize. Somehow Amy wasn't shocked when the package, unlocked, revealed several small chicks quite alive. The end of that tale was really quite grim. Into it, we won't further delve in. But for a while there were eggs. Now the story has legs and will bring a perpetual grin. But one thing did cause quite a quarrel, an old organ that ran with a barrel. I did quiver with fear when wild Amy appeared and chewed our poor bones to the marrow. As a cook, Mike was quite debonair. We would gawk and at his skill stare, always keeping on the look for some new wonder to cook. He'd then ask us, how much on the square? Like while digging clams, he did mightily strive for a great big bake of seafood alive. Spent all day in the sun, burned and red. It was fun. And at the end, he only had 5. So let's all toast our beloved friend Mike. His mirth and joy did to all of us strike a great love in our soul. Though his loss takes a toll, may we forever carry on in his light. Thank you.
This is a poem by Rosemary Trummer, With the Stars All Around. I wish you the peace of sleep, your breath a canoe that carries you towards the next moment without any need for you to touch the oars. How easily you arrive. Oh, to trust the world like that. Trust you will be carried, not just in sleep, but in waking dreams. Trust no matter how high the waves, the skiff of grace has a seat for you. And oh, to let go of the oars. There is no steering for what comes next. Mike, who loved the water, who loved the sea and the lakes, the Adirondacks, Halibut Point, Cranes Beach, the bays and lakes of Maine and Rhode Island, and come to think of it, wherever his close friends summered. A word he loved, by the way. He always had a lot of invitations. Few people know how to make and keep friends like Mike, and it's easy to understand why. You always felt understood by Mike. He never took himself too seriously, which translated to his friends in this unspoken feeling of being fully accepted and loved. And so, like the skiff in Trummer's poem, may we celebrate today Michael's deep love of the good life, staring out at the water and full of grace. In the end, Mike's indelible spirit spread to his friends and helped us love life more authentically. And when our wells are dry, we'll drink from the memories of his playful and impish grin and remember to trust in the waves to guide us to the very best things: laughter, friendship, and especially poking fun at serious things to lighten the mood and spirit. You will forever be steering us. Thank you, Mike, for welcoming us to the seat next to you. You'll forever be steering us towards the huge, thumping heart of life, and we are better for it.
We just celebrated Ash Wednesday. For years, I would be expecting Mike's voice because that would be the day when Mike would pop up into my office or give me a call and say, hey, today's Ash Wednesday. Are you feeling ashy? And Mike thought it was one of the best jokes he ever made. My name is Tete Kobler. I come from a tradition that believes that there is spiritual relevance as far as ancestors are concerned. A belief in a spiritual world and a physical one. We are all precious parts of the universe, we believe, and at the end of our lives, the universe claims us back. We're here today because the universe has claimed one of its own. I met Mike in 1996 at the Friends School. He had arrived as a youthful music teacher with a lot to say. We hit it off right away. We both loved music. We were in the same department and we loved sharing stories. My wife, Liz, and I first fell in love with Amy Salvatore the day we met her. And as an experienced couple and parents, we hoped to support them in their ups and downs as a young couple. I think we even allowed them to drive test parenthood by taking our two sons on a joyride through Cambridge before they had Helen to amuse them and to amuse. And apparently they were sold on it. Mike was a talented pianist, and as the music teacher at Fenn, he and I collaborated on ways to make the annual MLK assembly more musical and elaborate. Over time, the program got bigger until one day an exasperated Mike said, I sit by the piano and play like a karaoke machine while you all sing and dance on stage. I want to be on stage too. And so each year, after that pronouncement, we hired musicians to replace Mike at the piano. And he joined and sang with faculty, staff, and students on stage. You see, Mike could be frank about these things, and our honest conversations strengthened our friendship, and we guarded it with care. In his first year at Fenn School, a visitor to the campus approached us in the parking lot, walked right past me, and asked Mike for directions to the old gym. Surprised, Mike said, I'm fairly new here. He, gesturing towards me, has been here for many years. He would know. So, with some embarrassment, the visitor now approached me and asked for directions. I calmly obliged. For a few seconds afterwards, there was awkward silence. And Mike folded his arms like that and with a twinkle in his eyes said, you should just have said, me no speak English. Mike knew what I may have felt at that time. Mike could be blunt, short, and impatient sometimes. And what I liked about that was the honesty and truth beneath it all. Here's an interesting example. Our newly retired head of school, Jerry Ward, I hope he's not here, joined Liz and me at the home of the Salvatores for a meal. As the cocktail hour wore on, Amy and Liz walked away having decided the conversation was simply getting too juvenile. Now, if you know Jerry, he also has stories to share. So we had 3 storytellers in one space vying for speaking room with no audience. Now, Mike and I found ourselves just automatically deferring to our former boss. At one point, Mike was in mid-sentence when Jerry said, if I may interject for a minute. His hand raised to stop Mike. Mike paused on cue and then suddenly said, wait a minute, we don't have to listen to you. You're no longer our boss. It was a moment of clarity, warm hilarity, and vintage Mike. Mike loved life, as you have heard. He was an extrovert who cherished his friends and his friendships. Mike often made people feel seen, and most people felt safe in his presence. He was happiest when he was giving and receiving attention. He loved celebrating life. How fitting that their historic home in Wakefield was formerly a tavern, just the ideal place for Mike to play the role of innkeeper and to warmly host drop-ins and invited guests alike. Fires crackling on their large hearth, symbolic of the Salvatore's open hearts and open doors. It's here that Mike often held court, finding humor in the stories he told or heard. And Mike had his serious side. He was concerned about the state of affairs in the world as he watched his daughter Helen grow into a woman, and while the news of the world sounded dimmer and grimmer. But his view was that life must go on, and he celebrated it with joy regardless. Besides teaching music classes, Mike spent precious hours promoting and sustaining the Friends School Arts program, which he led ably. I think one highlight for Mike was the day the treble chorus sang the national anthem at Fenway Park on June 19th. I understand they sang twice, actually, 2 times. But June 19, 2013, in front of 37,000 fans and the Red Sox team, Mike's name was mentioned over Fenway's public address system alongside his beloved treble chorus. A few days ago, I watched, once again, the video of Mike and the boys singing with pride and dignity. I cannot think of anything more uplifting and affirming for any music educator. I'm sure Mike could think of one. Our 2 sons, Anof and Kwame, remember a fun warm-up song Mike used at the beginning of classes. And when we shared the sad news of his passing, they both independently began to sing that song for us. Other former students of Mike's recall Mike's energy and pleasure during his quirky, multicultural and costumed concerts. One friend alumnus, Adam Jamal, said upon hearing of Mike's passing, "I'm deeply sad. I was never the most musically inclined by a long shot, but I always had fun in his class. His energy was infectious and his humor joyful." Another alumnus, Sam Fowler, said, "Mr. Salvatore connected with me on a personal level. His humor made it impossible to walk away from his classes without a smile. When I graduated, he gifted me with one of the Friends song books. I'll cherish that book and his gesture always." If there are any Friends school music teachers here, please, you know where that lost book went. So, occasionally, Mike and I would escape from work and we'll share some personal challenges as fathers and husbands. For some reason, these rare conversations only happened at Chinese and Indian restaurants. And we would talk about the quiet battles we fight within ourselves and also the forgiving and unconditional love of our families. Those times are precious for me. I miss them when I retired from Friends School, and I miss them more now. But Mike and I had one more conversation recently. That was the last time I saw him. He was lying back on his couch and in pain, his voice weak but alive. I leaned in to hear what he was saying. We had talked about everything, how grateful he was for friendships, his caretakers, and the love that Emmanuel Church and the Friends School had shown him. We talked about everything except what was in front of us. But finally he said, "This is hard," his voice trailing. "I know," I said. "I don't want to leave you guys," he said. "I know," I said. How soon do you think? He asked. I don't know, I said. What could anyone say when the universe is claiming its gold? I can see Mike saying, oh, just shut up and read. So, Amy and Helen, today we're all feeling hurt. And nothing compares to what you're feeling now. But your friends will continue to support and love you always. We still have laughter from Mike's stories. We shall continue to look back and inwards to embrace the joy from when he was with us. May Mike's life remind us daily of the things he aspired to: laughter, music, happiness, creativity, and goodwill.
Michael Salvatore was a man who could tell a story. His creativity and imagination were boundless. On occasion, I might notice him grow a bit quiet during a social situation, and I knew he was crafting a tale that would amuse the group, but more importantly, himself. Michael started writing tales in college, and when he left Hamilton College, he gave out copies to his most intimate friends, probably 100 of his very closest. There'll be a new release of these tales soon, coming up in the next few months. I'd like to introduce one character that Michael brought to life in such a well-crafted way that this character took on a life of his own. Let's pan back to early COVID. Amy, Michael, and Helen were walking on Cranes Beach. There was a shipwreck on Cranes, and a large, rusty anchor was protruding from the sand. Michael frantically shouts to Helen, "Helen, be careful of that rusty anchor. You know, my friend, Chucky Schaefer, lost his leg to one exactly like that." Helen dutifully asks, "Dad, who is Chucky Schaefer?" Michael responds, "Well, Chucky's a friend of mine from long ago." Hence, the Chucky legend was born. Chucky had a wooden leg that was kept well varnished and polished until it gleamed in the sun. Chucky was an old-fashioned fellow that did not want any bells and whistles. He did not want his prosthetic to be more than it was. He was fine with the ability to walk again. Mike and Chucky were men of history. He appreciated the simplicity of days of yore. On a beautiful sunny day, you might hear Michael say, "Ah, Chucky, he loved a day like this." On a dreary day, you might hear the opposite. "Chucky struggled on days like this, you know, because of the leg." If you thought you could join in the fun and try to add a tidbit to Michael's story, you would be sorely disappointed. Only Michael P. Salvatore was allowed to write this tale. And if you inquired about Chucky's whereabouts, you might be met with, "I think you might be poking fun at my dear friend." Alas, Michael was the only purveyor of the Chucky Schaefer story, but I assure you, we're all recipients of the trials and tribulations of Michael Salvatore's imaginary friend. Michael was a man of pure joy. I have seen him on occasion don a fez, a baseball cap, and even on one occasion, a lampshade as a headpiece. Michael was indeed the straw that stirred the drink. I wrote a poem for Michael that I wasn't going to read, and Amy actually didn't ask me to read, but I think I'm going to anyways because I'm going rogue. I wrote this for Michael in September because I felt like he needed a lift. So here we go. Michael, my friend, tells great fish tales, you see, ingenious stories that long to be free. A man who can spawn a great tale with great focus. His tales are of a sort that can easily become an opus. He travels through graveyards and ancestors, shore to shore, and at first, if you do not get it, he'll offer you more. You might find him at dusk with a gin in his hand, sitting on his estate, a gent with a plan, amusing himself with his tenacious wit, and even if you grow weary, he will never quit. He ponders the characters that he has crossed that day. He weaves a mighty tale and has plenty to say. But do not interrupt the tale, he will stray. And you, my friends, may find yourself in shock and dismay because the tale will morph and change its tune, and you will find that soon you cannot leave the room. As he introduces his imaginary friend, Chucky Schaefer, with glee. For Chucky tales never end, you see, and yes, you will be there in eternity. So Amy actually did ask me to read a poem that I will read. And when I was first read this poem, I was struck by the sweetness of the message. However, on further reflection, I felt a more personal meaning. And the last 6 to 9 months of Michael's well-lived life, he would say to me, "I'm not going anywhere." And as a nurse and a caretaker, I often wondered if he was asking me if he was at the end of his story. I never answered him because I did not think at the moment I knew the answer to this very serious question. However, a few days after Michael passed, a very good friend of Amy's called her and said, "I had a dream about Michael last night." And he said to me, "I am still here." And then I had a revelation myself that yes, Michael is still here, and I feel his presence, as we all do, every day, peculiar as it might seem. Death is nothing at all. Death is nothing at all. I have only slipped away to the next room. I am I and you are you. Whatever we were to each other, that we still are. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak to me in that easy way, which you always used. Put no difference into your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without effect, without the trace of a shadow on it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same that it ever was. There is absolutely unbroken continuity. Why should I be out of mind? Because I am out of sight? I am but waiting for you, for an interval, somewhere very near, just around the corner. And in conclusion, as a musician and a performer, Michael would say, always leave them wanting more. And didn't he do just that?
Good night, and joy be with you all. Thank you. St. Augustine famously said that when you sing, you pray twice. Louise, Suzanne, choir, thank you for your gifts to Mike and to us. Before we conclude our celebration here in this beautiful holy moment and continue downstairs for more time together, we felt it appropriate to gather our hearts and everything that we're carrying right this moment, all that you've heard, the joy, the sorrow, the nostalgia, the humor, the fear, the sadness, the anxiety, whatever you're feeling, bring it all together. We felt it appropriate to bring it all together in the words that Jesus taught when his disciples said, so how do we pray? How do we talk to God? So as you are comfortable, please stand and pray with me the Lord's Prayer printed in your bulletin. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Please remain standing. Our celebration upstairs is complete. A note about exiting. After a blessing, while Caroline is playing, she's so wonderful, right there. There we go. Amy, Helen, and friends will exit down this aisle and meet you all downstairs where our celebration continues. If you would like to stay here for your own personal meditation or prayer or silence or whatever you need, you are welcome to stay as long as you like. Now I'm going to ask the choir to do something for me. Would you hold your hands up in blessing? You're going to bless them. My friends, life is short, and we do not have much time to gladden the hearts of those who are on the journey with us. So be swift to love, hasten to be kind, and always, always, always offer hospitality to the stranger and the blessings of the God who made us and who knows us and who travels with us. Be with you and those you love now and forever. And we say, Amen. Thank you.